Hello, good morning from the Internorga in Hamburg. I'm Will.
And I'm Johnny.
And together
we're Will and Johnny.
Johnny, being in Hamburg,
Yes.
Internorga, innovation, things happening. Homeland of EC.
Yes, it is.
Big project ahead, Uebersee quartier opening
Yeah.
soon in Hamburg.
Yeah.
Good opportunity for the people listening to us in regards to shopping mall development, new things. What do you think?
I'm loving it, honestly. Absolutely loving being in Hamburg. I mean, it's my home city, as you know. It's my second home. I live here a lot of the time. It's an incredible city, headquarters for ECE. It's been our homeland for a long, long time. And yeah, I mean, I think, everybody's waiting to see what happens. I think it's the 25th of April. Westfield are opening, and I know, like every other project out there at the moment, it's not all going to be open on the first day, and they're working really hard at that.
Yeah.
But it's going to change the landscape. Of course it is.
I mean, it's a massive undertaking, right? Uebersee quartier is literally creating a new city in the city to a certain extent.
The whole of Hafen City is a new city, a
Yeah.
regeneration project, and I worked on it for a number of people before I joined ECE, and I'm very familiar with the urban redevelopment. And then when I was working with Unibail years ago, as Unibail, we worked on the first project plans for it. So yeah, I mean, it's a regeneration of a huge part of the city, and ECE is involved in a lot of that as well, but not obviously that project.
Since you're with EC and you work a lot together, what does a project of that scale? I mean, me living in Dubai, as you know, and large-scale project is not something we're not used to. Actually, it's more like, what's the next largest thing which is happening? But for European scale, this is big.
It's big.
What influence do you think that has in the way of other shop or EC in particular in how shopping mall development's going to happen? Does this have an impact? Has this have an impact in the way how you look at the size of projects? What do you think?
I think it's not about projects, it's about what happens in the city, what happens to the ecosystem within the city. And we're working very hard at EC. We have been for a number of years on food and leisure. Specifically, that's my game. I'm here with the food fighters. All of my team that I work with at ECE, we're all at Internorga, we were all at the forum yesterday, 7 of us hunting.
Yeah.
I know, the best way to describe it, hunting the new operators, going to see the people that we know and love, making sure that the relationships are strong and that we're building for the future. But yeah, I mean, there is a concern. Of course there's a concern, because it's a big lump of space coming, and they're very innovative. I've had the pleasure of working with both Unibail and Westfield in the past, delivering projects all around the world. And they're really good at what they do. And so I think everybody's upping their game. I think we are looking at all of our assets, as we do anyway, and looking at how we can improve the quality of what we're giving our guests, and changing the mix, because the whole world of retail is evolving anyway. I mean, that's the point.
So, since we do this for the Across magazine, as obviously people who's now listening to us, since it's not our first time we do this, and we look a bit on a broader lens internationally, and F&B is also a topic we're talking about. Do you think this will have an impact, or this will have an influence on the way how things are going forward from here in regards to F&B's curated, in regards to how is it placed in a mall, in regards to the percentage of how much is F&B? Do you think that will have an impact?
It will, and I think, again, talking from experience, when Westfield lands anywhere, it does have an impact. It has an impact on the guest's perception of what shopping, eating, entertaining places are like. And it normally brings in a new dimension in design. And the way that they do it, there is a very strong way in which design is delivered with those businesses, and so I think that also changes the guest perception of what's going on. And none of us are bold enough to think we know everything about it, so you have to learn from what everybody's doing, whether it's Dubai. Everybody says about Dubai, Yeah, well, that's Dubai or that's Saudi, so it's not relevant to everywhere else. But
it is.
A recent trip out there 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, we went together.
In there for the RLI, and and I'm thinking and looking at this and thinking to myself, there's some really nice touches here that actually can be applied to so many other projects in so many other places. So there's not an exclusivity to a city or a country, but I think what it will do is it will change the guests' perception of what shopping is.
All right.
Yeah.
Being in Hamburg, as you said before, definitely one of my favorite places when I'm thinking of Germany and where I would live in Germany as an Austrian. Hamburg would definitely be it. When such large-scale things land, from a person living in Hamburg, and we could place this, I mean, you work on a massive project in Berlin, in regards to how people change their behaviors, their patterns, how they move, where they go to. What do you think is key for these projects to attract people to change their current behaviors and try something new? What do you think is instrumental for that?
It's fascinating because we were having a conversation, obviously, Joanna Fischer, our CEO at ECE, Stefan Friedlein, who's Managing Director Leasing, trying to understand what needs to go into our projects now to give people more. And what's clear is that much more retail isn't the answer, but what is diversity in the food offer, more day parts, more price points, more external seating. Those are really important things when you're curating space. And then around that also, how do you stretch the day? And so you go shopping during the day. I mean, do you go shopping at 9 o'clock at night? Well, you do in Dubai. Okay, I'll admit that, but not normally.
Not here.
So here, what we're trying to do is learn how to stretch the trading day. So maybe we're going for more restaurants that do breakfast, and then in the evening we're doing more leisure, more cinemas, more bowling, more social entertainment, more competitive socializing, which is driving visitation outside of the normal 9 to 5 or 10 till 6 hours.
Yeah.
And that is in direct response to what the guest wants, what the guest is telling us. So Maitseil, amazing. I mean, Maitseil, Foodtopia, okay, we had COVID in the middle, but we opened it, hugely successful. COVID, closed it, reopened it again, couple of re-tenants after that. And from what I'm seeing on the numbers now, it's one of the most successful leisure food floors in Europe.
Okay.
Not just in ECE,
So, speaking of this, it's Maitseil Frankfurt, right?
Yes, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, when being in Germany and just having enjoyed Food Service Forum yesterday, which was a very interesting one, if you only look with the German lens, right? There's lots of, it's difficult. It's it's a difficult environment. There's inflation and costs are high, and we don't know, and it's whatever. There's a certain reluctance, but at the same time, international players or international groups like McVin or others apparently see the same market and say, wow, there's massive potential. There's massive opportunity. There's things which is good to go after. And we both saw Henry on stage yesterday, which in my personal view was fantastic because I think he brought a level of exciting and motivation about the potential, and it's very inspiring.
Yeah.
So, is there an element in these developments to drive a certain level of optimism and inspiration and say, guys, it's not...
We are providing the property that these brands absolutely need. And that's why it's so important that the ecosystem in which I work isn't one-dimensional. And I think that's one of the things I absolutely celebrate every day about ECE, because they get that I have to do a lot of different things to be able to bring the right tenants, to be able to open with new brands, to be able to deliver a more interesting mix and create an environment where our guests are really, really, really happy. And I think, that's quite an innovative way of doing it, because you have to have your different hats on, doing different things, because you've got to talk to the investment community, as in the operator invest, you've got to talk to the operators, you've got to talk to the brands. All of those things are absolutely important to be able to bring that ecosystem together and then deliver new on the ground every day.
So, as a as a non-shopping mall developer, but as somebody who works a lot with people which rent spaces in such developments, something more controversial. How important do you think it is today, when you think of all the different tenants you want to get? That, and you said it's not more retail is not necessarily the answer for how things are.
No.
You might actually find tenants or concepts which could be really relevant, but they might not be able to afford these, opportunities. How relevant or how important is it today for shopping mall developers like ECE or Unibail or others to not just have the leasing hat on and say, as long as you pay my rent, everything's fine?
Yeah, absolutely.
How important is it to adjust to it?
It's really
more,
important. It's really, it's a super question, but it's really important because not every rent is a high rent, and this is part of the, I'm going to say, the prejudice against shopping places and against landlords. They were always talking about the highest rent. It's not, and I think, if you took the scale of rents in retail, you've got department stores that are at the lowest end of the scale pretty much, some big shop units which are lower per square metre, going up to the larger rents for the smaller stores and the really well-performing ones. So there is a range there already, and I think where you're seeing things like department stores changing and closing and being replaced by leisure, there's not a huge amount of difference between leisure rent and a department store rent. So you've got a big box. You've got a big box. You can use that for leisure. I think it's the cost. It's the thing that keeps us up at night at ECE all the time. It's the cost of converting the space. It's the cost of bringing in equipment to be able to run kitchens and air conditioning of a high standard to be able to run leisure and noise attenuation and all of those things. That's what's the expensive bit. But actually the like-for-like rents isn't that bad.
Okay.
And we're now seeing in our estate restaurant rents exceeding retail rents in some cases.
All right.
Because we know that the restaurant industry is still very buoyant, despite all the worldwide issues that are out there. And actually, there will come better times when Gaza, Ukraine, utilities, you name that. If you were a restaurant operator now, and you're thinking about opening, you'd be insane, wouldn't you? And yet, hundreds do it
doing it every day. I agree.
So,
so for the sake
crazy.
of timing, to close this session off, the way I understand this, and this is not, and obviously there is you had so many hats on in your career of different developers, different shopping mall operators, but generally speaking, what you said is there is a positive influence
Absolutely.
for shopping mall operators have now on the way how our environment looks like. It's not just the rental game, it's actually really creating good stories and good kind of combinations for customers or guests to say, this is the place, this is where I want to be. And it actually doesn't really matter who it is at the end, as long as they see that potential and that opportunity, they will change the way how society deals with certain things or how things develop for the better. Is that right?
Yeah, we have to.
Cool.
We have to.
So, guys,
it's a recipe, my friend.
Yes.
It's a recipe, and like every good recipe, you can have it written down on a piece of paper, but actually the skill of the chef of making that recipe into a dish determines how good it is. And I take that as an analogy with developers, landlords and owners. We all know what we need to do to change, so we have the recipe. It's how we do it.
Yes, that's a good closing statement, I think. So I think we close it off for today. So thank you very much for listening. You will definitely hear another one from us very soon. So thanks for listening in. If you haven't been to Hamburg and to the Internorga yet, give yourself a push and try it out. It's actually worth it. And we wish you a great day. Thank you very much.
See you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.